Hey, quickly before this video starts, I now have access to the community tab. If you don't know what a community tab is on YouTube, it's a place where I can put polls, ask questions, and interact with the community. So I will be very active on there. I already have one poll on there. So go check that out after you're done with this video. And now let the summer trip begin! After this quick recap. Hiccups. What's this little thing? The celebration? What's this fountain over here?
Look at the fountain.
Whoa! Huh. What's up here? Whoa! Oh,
book it.
Let's just go there. Time lapse. Later one.
Here he would find all the pieces of his life and the pages of history.
Wow. That was nice.
Yeah.
Well, see you when the games start.
Yeah, you're trying to make the bear climb. Trying to make the bear climb. The concept. And I've seen people pick it up and climb right away. Okay, so going out helps it go up. That's a good trick to know. Hold on a second. So you want to play by yourself or do you want to be his partner? Looks like you're aiming it right at me. Oh!
And we now continue the summer trip. And then we took a tour of the Abraham Lincoln house.
Is made of horsehair. And in fact, with only one exception, all the horsehair furniture in this room is the Lincoln's original stuff. Only this one rocking chair is not theirs, but it is still from that time period. Every other chair and couch belonged to them. We've also got the marble top table under the mirror is an original item there. We have the 5-leveled shelf on the back wall with Lincoln's bust on top. That shelf unit is called a whatnot shelf. Yes, because it is full of whatnots and trinkets. And we have Abraham's bookcase in the back corner. If you can't see it yet, don't worry, we're going to make our way this way later on. But that is his as well. So, needless to say, lots of great stuff preserved here. But really, that's only one reason to admire the parlor. There is another reason, and that would be we can actually trace some historic events back to this room. Now, you see right where I am standing, the room is kind of divided here by a big archway and folding doors that can section this room off into two halves. Well, back when this was a one-story cottage, this is the spot where there was a complete dividing wall, because this used to be two separate rooms. Back then, when this was a one-story home, the parlor was just the front. The back half here was the bedroom, the one main bedroom of the home, and that means 3 Lincoln children were born in this very room. Eddie, Willie, and Tad. Very important for them. Now, tragically, it's also where one of those sons was lost to the Lincolns. Their boy Eddie passed away very young, when he was less than 4 years old. Tuberculosis in February of 1850, right here. So that unfortunate event does also occur in this room. So there is joy and tragedy for the Lincolns here. But another major event, rather more positive for Mr. Lincoln, happens here in 1860. In late May of 1860, by which point the parlor has expanded and that second floor is built, Abraham Lincoln is met in this room by a delegation of men that have traveled here from Chicago. Now, they have come from the Republican National Convention, and they have come to inform Abraham that he has officially been selected as their candidate for the presidential election. So he receives the word that he is on the ticket for the White House in this room. Very important space for American history and for him. Good place to start off our tour, where all of that happened for the family right here. So pretty important room for them. And that is the parlor in a nutshell. Now, of course, we've got plenty more house to see, but do you have any questions for me so far from this room or the house in general? Wonderful. We'll have more opportunities as we go, so if you think of any questions, don't worry, we'll have more chances. But we're going to move right along at this point. Back here is the dining room. You'll get a look at the original dining room table and chairs in there, and then continue around into the room with the red wallpaper. Our next stop will be there. I'm taking the back way. See you right around the corner. Oh yes. All the way down towards me, probably cluster up two groups a little bit. Need 2 lines if we need to. Whatever gets all 15, 16 of us in. Thank you kindly, everyone. Thank you. Oh, perfect. No problem. Okay, no problem. Yes, and yeah, we can make 2 lines here if we need to. Cluster up groups, yeah, front and back. Shorter ones in front, maybe whatever gets all of us in, packed nice and tight into the sitting room. Okay. Well, as we come around from the fancy dining room here, you can tell there's one big way that this is the opposite of the parlor room we just left, because this is where those Lincoln boys were allowed to run free and have fun. We would call this the family room or the living room. They called it the sitting room. They would relax and play games and work here. Mrs. Lincoln does a lot of work in this room. You'd often find Mary on the far side by me. Under this mirror is the sewing table. Mirror and table, both original as well. Mary makes all the clothes for her sons by hand, and that is a lot of work for one woman, especially because as she sits there at the table working, she has to deal with distractions. Her boys are having wrestling matches on the floor of this room most evenings. When I say the boys, I include Abraham in that. He will wrestle his children here. And if you didn't know, Mr. Lincoln is a world-class wrestler. He is, in fact, the winner of over 300 matches in his life. Abraham Lincoln is in the Wrestling Hall of Fame. That is true. He shows off those skills to the boys. Now, of course, they don't want to wrestle that every night. If they want to be a bit more relaxed, then they can play board games like chess, or they could use that tall wooden box called a stereoscope to view pictures in 3D. That's the predecessor to the ViewMaster, or virtual reality, 3D images in front of your eyes. Very fancy device. But if they wanted some more old-fashioned fun, well, they can play with the family pets here as well. There are animals running around this room. The Lincolns have a dog. They have a yellow Labrador mix with the very creative name of Fido. Yes, Fido the Lincoln dog runs around here. Besides Fido, well, there's almost always a few cats running around this home as well, because Abraham keeps bringing home stray cats. He will pick them up on his way home from work and drop them off on the floor. We actually have a letter written by Mrs. Lincoln that says, Abraham's great hobby is collecting cats. So there you have it. You can all remember 2 things about Abraham today. If you learn nothing else, just don't forget that he is a great wrestler and a true cat lover. Very important details. Tell your friends. They'll be impressed with your knowledge. Now, all of those things make this my personal favorite room. Feels the most like a home to me here. It's where the whole family can gather and be themselves while sharing the same space as one group. So, very important for them. Lots of nice time spent. I'm sure it wasn't the most quiet room in the house, but hey, that's who the Lincolns were. Very high energy family here. But any questions down in this room or from this floor?
Is that carpeting pretty much the way?
The carpeting it's a best guess on our part, but it is a very close approximation. As you can tell from the historic drawings here, they were done in 1860, right after the election. They have a pattern there very, very similar to what we have today. So this is how it would have looked when it was new, but it is ultimately an educated guess as far as the exact pattern. Same goes for the wallpaper, taken from these drawings and from testimonies of people, but not photo references. We have only those artistic representations. Yeah. All right, good question. But it is an authentic pattern that was available in 1860 Springfield, so it's as close as we'll get. All right, well, we have lots more to see. We have now made a loop around the first floor. The only room down here we have not seen yet is the kitchen. We're going to come back to that at the end. That's behind the dining room. But that was the entire house for most of the years they lived here. I think you understand why they wanted to expand as the family grew. So next, you're going to follow me this time as we head upstairs. Now, as we climb those steps, I'm going to ask you to hold onto the banister handrailing for safety. The steps are steep, but also because the banister handrail happens to be original. It is the only original thing we want you to touch, and it is as close as you'll ever get to a handshake with Abraham Lincoln. He held this railing every day. Think of that one. So once we get to the top of the steps, you'll see the guest bedroom on your left. Now that has green wallpaper. You can poke your heads into that room and get a peek around. And then I'll be waiting for you on the other side of the hallway, which is where these wonderful protective rails are not there anymore. And we have to mind that blue carpet under our feet. So with all of that in mind, follow me as we go onwards and upwards right this way.
Hold on, go down the stairs. Hear him say Abraham Lincoln. Hold on.
Wow.
Okay, remember, stay on the blue carpet.
Just try to.
Okay, okay. On the blue carpet. I'm gonna turn it while you're doing it. And I'll go.
If we need to, maybe you cluster around, if you want to do more steps down, fill in that blue carpet space, everybody, thank you kindly. Oh, goodness. Make sure we're on that blue carpet.
Cool. Cool.
Off top of the stairs almost. Okay. Wonderful. Well, as we are gathering here on the second floor, just remember that all this floor of the home was added by the Lincoln family years after moving in to expand their home. We already see big improvements, right? Nice spacious rooms with tall ceilings. They've got more than one bedroom as well now. They can have a room for the visitors, the guest room across the hallway there, very cozy, with more of that horsehair furniture. But the room that we are standing in right now, well, this is the master suite. This is Abraham and Mary's room, and it is a suite. It's 2 rooms. It goes back here behind me as well. Now we call this one Abraham's room, the back one Mary's room. Now that does not mean that we just call the rooms different names, because that's where each of them keeps all their personal stuff. Abraham's clothes and items in this room, Mary's personal things back there. Mary's room is actually occupied at night by the 2 youngest boys, Willie and Tad. They would have shared Mary's room, sleeping on a pull-out bed called a trundle bed. That's in there, and Mary can go back to that room and look after those kids and help them get to sleep. If she's back there with the boys, then Abraham gets to have some free time in this room. He will use that to work. This is his mini office from home. Lincoln works from this room here in the back corner there. I know that desk is not very fancy. It is a little small and cramped, but it is still my personal favorite item in the house. That is Lincoln's original desk. He owned that for over 15 years, writing letters, speeches, law cases, personal thoughts. I'm sure many of you have heard of a very famous speech by Lincoln, which includes that line, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." But we think Lincoln drafted that speech on that desk, so very good piece of history there. The desk is his. Also, the dresser under the mirror and the big wardrobe or armoire in the corner are original pieces as well. So those are all excellent items that Lincoln owned here. And besides all that, I have to say, when I walk into this room, the first thing that usually catches my eye is not the furniture, but the wallpaper, right? What do we think of the wallpaper in here? A little busy, right?
I like it.
A little wild,
I like
a little
it.
intense, a little fancy, overwhelming maybe. Whatever you think of it, love it or hate it, this is actually the only room where we know for a fact exactly what the wallpaper was. Most of the wallpaper in this house is like the carpets, a best guess taken from references and testimonies. But in this room, we were doing some renovations and found original scraps that were left on the very back layers. We were able to use those and recreate exactly what it looked like here when it was new. So pretty neat to see. I'm not sure that I would have gotten a good night's sleep in this room. It's a little wild and fancy for me, but hey, times and styles do change for sure. But any other questions here in the master bedroom? Excellent. If not, we'll move right along again. Now, some things to point out. We're going to walk through Mary's room next, but as you come around the bed here, take a peek underneath Abraham's bed on the side here. You will see, of course, a fact of 19th century life. Not the most glamorous, though. One thing this house does not have is running water, and that means no flushing toilets. You got to use the chamber pot or the outhouse in the backyard. I mention that because I want you to compare the simple chamber pot to what Mrs. Lincoln has. When you walk through her room, look to your left, Mary gets the good stuff. She has a commode, a very nice wooden seat with a flip-up lid. And yes, Mary's commode is original. We all know how thrilled she would be to show that to hundreds of people every day. So get a look at it. We also have her dresser or chest of drawers. It'll be directly ahead of you when you walk in on the back wall. Mary's dresser is the oldest item in this house. It's actually a Todd family heirloom from Lexington, Kentucky. It predates this home. It's about 200 years old. Yes, got a question?
The mirror is really high.
Yes.
Is that like, did they know that's how he put it, or?
Correct, yes, that is for Abraham's height, yes. 6 foot with his shaving mirror, so it's actually how the height that his chin would be when he was standing in front of that mirror, because he does actually shave himself completely for most of the years that he is here in the home. He doesn't grow his famous beard until during that presidential election, but most of his life he would shave right here. No, it's not the original mirror, but it is hung at the original spot.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, we're going to come on through Mary's room and then fill the back hallway next.
Yeah, look how tall it is.
Wow.
A very tall person. Like, the top of the mirror is barely to my head. So that is the chamber pot, right?
Yeah. That's where
And you go potty.
in the house. Basically into a bucket, and then you would take it out.
So did you hear the two boys? The youngest boys were sleeping in here.
And this is a.
Looks like a boy's bedroom.
Barely. I mean, the bed is long enough for him, if only by a couple inches. But most of the furniture, the seats, are too low. He would actually prefer to stretch out on the ground rather than sitting in the chairs. Yeah.
Look at that. Is that a hoop game? Like you play outside?
I think it is.
That's cool.
What?
Don't lean on the wall. The walls there.
Okay, wonderful. Well, as we come around from the bedrooms here into the back hallway, you may notice quite a difference. What happened to all the fancy wallpaper and all the decorations? There's in fact nothing back here, and that's because this hallway is only ever going to be seen by the family. No guest would ever come back this far. It's actually a little bit of a hidden area. The only ways to find it are to come around Mary's room like we did, or up those back steps to the kitchen, which are places the guests would not travel back to. If you're wondering about the big closed door here, it doesn't actually go anywhere. This is just a linen closet, so there's no way through there either. Same goes for the other closed door at the far end. Just to alleviate your curiosity, we're not hiding anything. It is another storage room down there. But the other rooms here are very useful for the family and their other members of the household. Here on my right, we have the boys' bedroom. Now, originally, this is Robert Lincoln's room. The oldest son has his own space, while his younger brothers are sharing Mary's room. But in 1859, Robert moved out. He went off to college. He was old enough then to go off to Harvard. And as soon as he left, Willie and Tad saw an opportunity. Like any good brothers, they ran across the hallway, took that room the same day Robert left. Now it is set up for Willie and Tad, full of their toys, checkers, dominoes, toy soldiers, and marbles. They need plenty of distractions to keep out of trouble. It's a full-time job to look after those kids. And on top of that workload, you've got all the chores and the housekeeping around here without any of our modern technology and the fact that Abraham is away from home most days working. Mary can't do it all herself. So the Lincolns, they need some extra help here. They are thankfully able to have one full-time hired girl that worked here in the home. She is the unsung hero. She cooks, she cleans, she stokes the fires, she dumps the chamber pots in the morning. Very glamorous. Thankfully, the hired girl was paid every week for that work, and she is also given a room here for free to stay in. That is her room at the end of the hall there on the left. It is a little basic. It's more like a dorm room or a bunk, but hey, it was free. For a teenage girl, not a bad deal. It's also the only room that still has original floors visible, so get a look at those. And that leaves us with that other closed door, which, as I mentioned, is the other storage room. Bigger than the closet, though. It is a little walk-in space where you can pack away all the extra clothes that were not needed for the current season. They get put into trunks or suitcases. So it is the trunk room. Very clever. But overall, you see big improvements here on this floor. Bedrooms to spare, storage rooms. They are not cramped into that cottage. This is the house at the height of their comfort as it looked around 1860. And that's the second floor. Pretty much all bedrooms and storage. Any questions up here before we head back down? Wonderful. If not, we've got one stop left to go. So once you've seen these rooms, head on down to the kitchen. That's the smallest room we have, so prepare to squish a little bit. And I will see you down there for our final stop. Yeah.
This is where the help.
That is
Yeah.
The girl who helped stayed.
The original floor.
Yeah.
Original floor. Wow. Ooh. Going down here. Oh, it is a small room.
Squatting in those caves, definitely I'm feeling like squatting through those caves.
What?
Squatting down through the caves made me
In the.
made my
the
legs
city
hurt in
museum?
the city museum.
Okay.
Scoot over like that. There we go.
Pardon me, folks. I'm going to kind of squeeze across this room and get one more member of our party back here to us. Don't mind the beeps. I'm sitting in muscles. Okay. On that side. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's taking me out. But anyway, here we are, folks. Is that everybody just about? One more? There we go. Okay. Well, here we are, folks. Last but not least, the glamorous Lincoln kitchen. I know it's a little cozy, right? Pretty simple, but hey, that's what they had to deal with back then. Not a lot of modern technology, of course. No running water, no electricity. Means no stove, no microwave, no sink, no fridge. But of course, what they do have is that big old centerpiece there in the middle of the floor, and that is the Lincoln's original cast iron stove. Very impressive and useful. It's got a stove top, an oven inside. The shelf that hangs over the front is called the apron, which you can use to heat up irons and do your ironing for your clothes right there as well. It is a multi-purpose tool. Now, Mary and the hired girl use that together every day, but in particular, Mrs. Lincoln loved that stove. She actually loved it so much, she wanted to take that with them to the White House. Abraham didn't have to tell her the unfortunate truth. Kitchens there were full already. There was a staff to do the cooking, and that stove weighs about 600 pounds, so no need to haul it across the country. They left it here. I don't blame them, but I understand why she loved it. It looks almost brand new today. I would have wanted to show that off as well. Now that is a great piece. Sadly, it's the only original thing we have left in the kitchen. The rest are antiques, but not the Lincolns, so it's a close guess how it looked. We know that out that white door is the back porch, and beyond that is a door to the pantry. So food storage is a separate room across the porch there. But while we are still in this room, I want to mention one more detail, and that has to do with the size of the kitchen itself, between these four walls. This size of the kitchen, as small as it is, just so happens to be the same size as the entire log cabin where Abraham Lincoln was born. He shared a cabin the size of this room with 8 other people at once. That is his origin on the frontier. And I think you understand right away why he wanted to educate himself. So with less than a year of school put together, he taught himself to read and to be a lawyer. No law school for Lincoln. He borrowed books until he was certified, passed the bar exam, ended up in Springfield, got a career, a family, a community here, settled in this town for 24 years, and then directly from here to the White House. Quite a journey. That is the great Lincoln success story. But besides that, final thought to leave you with today, just the reminder that we tend to see Abraham Lincoln in larger-than-life terms nowadays, right? He is a big face on Mount Rushmore. He is a big statue on the Lincoln Memorial. He is a $5 bill and a penny. But don't forget, those images of him are not inspired by myth and folktale. They are, in fact, a real person. There's a real human Abraham Lincoln behind all those images, and we have walked through his very home today. So don't forget that he is a hard worker. He is a loving husband and father here. And yes, he is 2 things to never forget: great wrestler and cat lover. That is Abraham Lincoln, and that's what I'm going to leave you with this afternoon. Now that brings us to the formal end of our tour through the house. But on behalf of the National Park Service, let me say thank you everyone so much for visiting. It is always a pleasure to bring folks through the home. Hope you enjoyed your tour through the house today. Of course, there's plenty more for you to see. We're going to turn you loose now to explore everything else you haven't seen yet. Yes, thank you. Open up that door. I can get through there and hold it open for everybody else, and then do have a great rest of your day here, folks. Thank you all kindly. You can come back anytime. Yeah, so the house was actually rented to other families, but Lincoln still owned it. Sorry. Okay. So, so the Lincoln family did still own it. They rented it to other families. It fell into Robert's possession, the oldest son, after Abraham's. Robert continued renting the house to other families for about 22 years after Abraham's. And then eventually, in 1887, Robert donated the house to the state of Illinois. Well, he sold it for $1 and said they could have it if they maintained it and opened it for free. So it's Robert Lincoln that gives the house to the government.
Yeah. So, sorry, I had a question. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so Mary and the boys never came back.
They never did. Mary came back to Springfield, but not to this house. She lived with her sister about half a mile that way.
Well, that's what my question was.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Okay, that was interesting.
Yeah.
And I have about 6 minutes of storage left. Oh, this is...
It's raining.
Oh, it's raining? Oh. Should we go check it real quick? It's fine, the GoPro's waterproof, but I'm not sure about everything
But I'm
else.
Swedish sugar and I might melt.
What?
I'm Swedish sugar and I might melt.
Oh. Oh no.
If I get wet, I just melt away like sugar. Dissolve. You never heard that saying?
Dissolve?
Swedish sugar and I might melt.
No.
Yeah.
And this is the last thing that you'll see today. Maybe. I don't know. It's a fun side by side, so Old photo goes to new
The
photo.
National Park Service was formed in 1916.
Mm-mm.
1,000 curses on nobody.
What you doing?
Taco dance. And we've crossed from Illinois to Iowa. We're in Iowa now. Now, I've never been here. I don't think, right? We haven't been, no, yeah. I've never been here. So, oh, but first, here's all the pictures that we took in Springfield, Illinois. Well, we're done with the picture stuff. And we're going to a place called Hertz Donut. But that will sadly have to wait until next time. If you enjoyed, remember to like, subscribe, bell notifications if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more content like this. Remember about that community tab thing. That's a fun thing. I'm going to be very active on that. We have a poll on there already. There might be more stuff by the time this video comes out. Anyways, I'm Sprout. You're awesome. Thank you for watching. Goodbye!
Especially because as she sits there at the table working, she has to deal with distractions. Her boys are having wrestling matches on the floor of this room most evenings. When I say the boys, I include Abraham in that. He will wrestle his children here. And if you didn't know, Mr. Lincoln is a world-class wrestler. He is in fact the winner of over 300 matches in his life. Abraham Lincoln is in the Wrestling Hall of Fame. That is true. He shows off those skills to the boys. But if they wanted some more old-fashioned fun, well, they can play with the family pets here as well. There are animals running around this room. The Lincolns have a dog. They have a yellow Labrador mix with the very creative name of Fido. Yes, Fido the Lincoln dog runs around here. Besides Fido, well, there's almost always a few cats running around this home as well, because Abraham keeps bringing home stray cats. He will pick them up on his way home from work and drop them off on the floor. We actually have a letter written by Mrs. Lincoln that says, Abraham's great hobby is collecting cats. So there you have it. You can all remember 2 things about Abraham today. If you learn nothing else, just don't forget that he is a great wrestler and a true cat lover. Very important details. Tell your friends. They'll be impressed with your knowledge. She has a commode, a very nice wooden seat with a flip-up lid. And yes, Mary's commode is original. We all know how thrilled she would be to show that to hundreds of people every day. So get a look at it. They are, in fact, a real person. There's a real human Abraham Lincoln behind all those images, and we have walked through his very home today. So don't forget that he is a hard worker. He is a loving husband and father here. And yes, he is 2 things to never forget: great wrestler and cat lover. That is Abraham Lincoln, and that's what I'm going to leave you with this afternoon. Now that brings us to the formal end of our tour through the house.
What you doing?
Taco dance.